April 1945, near the Rhine. An American patrol stopped on a forest road. The column had been moving north since dawn. Rainwater still dripped from the pine branches above them. Mud covered the wheels of 6 half-tracks. Nobody spoke louder than necessary. A damaged German helmet lay beside the ditch. Another sat under the wheel of a parked jeep. Its steel shell had been flattened almost completely. The patrol lieutenant stared at it for several seconds. Then he looked back, toward the trees again. Nobody touched the helmet. 2 mechanics unloaded fresh American gear from wooden crates. 3 infantrymen stood without moving near the road marker. One man kept rubbing the side of his neck with a dirty glove. The replacement helmet rested on the hood of the jeep. It had not been there that morning. The German helmet no longer existed. The lieutenant folded the inventory sheet once. He slid it into his jacket pocket slowly. Then he looked down the road again. This is what Patton did. Before we continue, make sure you subscribe. We tell the stories about World War II that expose the moments when survival and military identity collided under fire. Robert Miller, Cleveland, age 28. He'd been leading infantry patrols for 11 months. He'd seen burned tanks, frozen bodies, and artillery craters, but he'd never seen an American soldier refuse a direct order over a helmet. Miller commanded 32 men attached to the 5th Infantry Division near the Rhine crossing routes. They had moved 14 miles in 2 days. German resistance had collapsed in some villages and hardened in others. Every road carried the risk of mines, hidden machine guns, or nervous American units firing too quickly. The patrol moved through forest roads east of Koblenz during the 2nd week of April 1945. Rain covered the ground in thick mud. Visibility dropped below 60 yards in the trees. Most men kept their helmet straps loose because branches snapped them backward while walking. Private James Walker walked near the center of the column. Chicago, age 24. His American M1 helmet had cracked 3 days earlier after mortar fragments struck the rim near Bonn. The split still ran across the steel like a black vein. Walker now wore a German steel helmet painted dark gray. He had removed the insignia himself with a knife. The shape still looked wrong beside American uniforms. Every man in the patrol noticed it immediately. Nobody reported him the first day. 2 sergeants argued quietly beside a fuel truck that night. One believed the helmet gave better side protection. The other believed Walker would get shot by his own side before the Germans ever reached him. The next morning, Miller stopped the patrol beside a damaged bridge crossing. He pointed at the helmet once. "Take it off." Walker stayed where he was. Rainwater rolled down the front rim of the German steel. My helmet cracked near Bonn. "Sir, this one stopped shrapnel yesterday." 3 soldiers looked toward Miller immediately. Another man stepped farther away from Walker without speaking. Army regulations already covered captured enemy weapons. Rifles could be collected. Pistols could be tagged. Enemy uniforms and visible equipment created different problems entirely. American units had already reported several friendly fire shootings during the final advance into Germany. Confusion spread fast in forests, especially at dawn, especially under rain. Miller repeated the order. Walker shook his head once. "I'm not walking point, without steel on my head. You want it off. Replace it." Nobody in the patrol had spare helmets left. The supply convoy remained 9 miles behind them after a damaged bridge delayed movement overnight. Miller could punish Walker directly. He could also ignore it and keep moving. Neither answer solved the real problem. If he backed down, 31 other men watched a direct order fail in public. If he forced the issue, he risked removing protection from a soldier still under artillery threat. The patrol resumed movement 20 minutes later. Walker kept the German helmet on. That afternoon, Miller reported the incident to Captain Harold Green at the battalion command house near Andernach. Green listened without interrupting once. Then he asked to see the written report. Captain Harold Green, Philadelphia, age 34. He'd been commanding rifle companies for 18 months. He'd seen bridge collapses, friendly fire, and panic retreats. But he'd never seen a soldier openly refuse an equipment order during an active advance. Green read the report beside a lantern hanging over a folding table. Rain hit the roof above them in uneven bursts. A field radio crackled every few seconds near the wall. "You gave a direct order?" Green asked. "Yes, sir." He refused it in front of the patrol. Green tapped the edge of the report twice with 2 fingers. Then he looked toward the German helmet sitting on the floor beside the door. Walker had carried it into headquarters himself. The steel still showed fresh scrape marks from tree branches. A crack split his American helmet almost completely through the left side. Green picked up the damaged American helmet carefully. His thumb pressed against the fractured rim. "You wearing this tomorrow?" he asked. Walker shook his head once. "No, sir." A mechanic entered the room carrying inventory papers from Division Supply. No replacement helmets had arrived in the last 36 hours. 2 trucks remained stranded west of the river crossing after engineers redirected traffic north. Green understood the problem immediately. Punishment solved discipline. It did not solve protection. "If I let you keep wearing this," Green said. "Every nervous kid in the division starts scavenging German gear tomorrow." Walker said nothing. Rainwater dripped from the bottom edge of the German helmet onto the wooden floor. Green dismissed Miller and Walker together. Neither man spoke while leaving the building. An hour later, Green walked directly to Major Thomas Reed at Battalion Operations. Thomas Reed, Boston, age 39. He'd been coordinating battalion operations for 2 years. He'd seen artillery breakthroughs, fuel shortages, and night ambushes. But he'd never seen a patrol dispute reach battalion command over a single piece of equipment. Reed studied 3 incident reports spread across his desk. One involved an American machine gun crew firing at movement near a tree line outside Trier. Another involved nervous replacement troops shooting at silhouettes during fog before dawn. 2 Americans died in those incidents. 5 more were wounded, all within the previous 12 days. Reed removed his glasses slowly. Then he looked toward Green. "You understand why this matters?" Reed said. "Yes, sir. That's why I brought it here." Green placed both helmets on the desk, side by side. One cracked American shell, one dark German steel helmet with scraped paint across the rim. Reed stared at them for nearly 10 seconds. "If I approve this," he said, "I create precedent. If I reject it, I send a man into artillery fire wearing broken steel." Nobody in the room answered immediately. The field stove popped once near the wall. Reed requested replacement inventory from Division Supply again. The answer returned 40 minutes later. No helmets available until the next convoy. Estimated delay, 48 hours. Green folded the inventory paper once. Then he slid it back across the desk. "We can discipline him after the advance," Green said quietly. "Right now, he just wants protection." Reed leaned back in the chair without speaking. Outside, another convoy passed through the rain toward the river roads. The battalion could not officially authorize enemy equipment, but nobody wanted to send Walker forward with fractured steel either. Reed finally picked up the report. "Write the incident cleanly," he said. "No opinions, no recommendations." Green nodded once. He left the office carrying both helmets under one arm. By midnight, The rewritten report moved to regimental headquarters. Colonel William Mercer, Atlanta, age 42. He'd been commanding combat regiments for 14 months. He'd seen mutinies, sniper executions, and exhausted men break under shell fire. But he'd never seen frontline survival collide this directly with battlefield identity. Mercer received the report shortly after 2:00 a.m. 3 staff officers remained awake inside the command house. Coffee cups covered half the operations table. He read the entire report twice. Then he examined both helmets himself under a desk lamp. The crack in the American helmet spread almost 7 inches across the side. The German helmet showed fresh mud and dried blood inside the liner. One lieutenant recommended disciplinary action immediately. Another recommended temporary battlefield exemption until supplies arrived. Mercer agreed with both arguments. That was the problem. If this reaches division, one staff officer said, they'll force a ruling. Mercer kept looking at the helmets. If word spreads first, another officer added, half the replacements may start scavenging enemy gear. Mercer understood the danger clearly. American soldiers survived partly because units recognized each other instantly under stress. Different helmets destroyed that instinct. But he also understood something else. Walker had not worn the German helmet for pride. He wore it because cracked steel meant exposed skull under artillery fragments. Mercer finally closed the report folder. He did not sign anything. Instead, he attached both inventory papers, both incident summaries, and the patrol statements together with a single clip. Then he handed the file to the overnight courier. By the next morning, it was sitting on Patton's desk. Patton read the report inside a stone farmhouse outside Mainz before sunrise. Rain tapped against the windows in uneven bursts. 2 oil lamps lit the operations table. He turned one page slowly, then another. The cracked American helmet rested beside the report folder. The German helmet sat near the edge of the table under dried mud and scratched paint. Patton picked up the American helmet first. His thumb pressed against the fractured steel. The crack bent slightly under pressure. He set it down carefully. Then he lifted the German helmet with both hands. Nobody in the room spoke. Patton looked inside the liner for several seconds. A faded German name still showed beneath the leather strap. He turned the helmet once more and placed it back beside the report. Silence stayed in the room another few moments. Finally, Patton looked toward his aide. An American patrol is walking through Germany, dressed half enemy. The aide waited. Patton folded the report closed once. Get my driver. I'm going myself. One captain near the map table straightened immediately. Sir, division supply can handle this by afternoon. Patton reached for his gloves without answering. The captain spoke again. If you intervene personally, every regiment will hear about it before nightfall. Patton pulled the gloves tight across his hands. That's the point. 20 minutes later, his jeep rolled north through the rain. Combat uniform. 4 stars painted across the helmet. Ivory-handled revolvers resting against his belt. The patrol stood along the forest road near Andernach shortly after noon. Rain still covered the pine branches above them. 32 infantrymen waited beside 6 half-tracks without speaking. Patton's jeep stopped less than 20 feet from the front of the column. Mud splashed against the tires as the driver braked. The engine remained running. Patton stepped out wearing combat boots darkened by rainwater. 4 white stars marked the front of his helmet. The ivory handles of both revolvers rested against his belt as he walked towards the patrol. Nobody moved. Private James Walker still wore the German helmet. The dark steel stood out immediately among the American uniforms. Several soldiers looked away before Patton even reached him. Patton stopped directly in front of Walker. He did not raise his voice. "Take it off." Walker looked at him for 1 second. Then he removed the helmet slowly and held it against his chest. Patton reached forward and took it himself. Mud fell from the rim on to his glove. Captain Green stepped forward with the cracked American helmet. The split across the steel remained clearly visible. Patton examined it briefly. Then he handed it back without comment. A supply sergeant opened a reserve crate beside the second half-track. Inside sat 14 replacement helmets wrapped in brown paper from a delayed convoy that arrived 2 hours earlier. Patton removed one helmet personally from the crate. He walked back toward Walker and handed it to him without ceremony. "Wear your own uniform." Walker took the replacement helmet carefully. He fastened the chin strap once beneath his jaw. Patton turned immediately toward the nearest half-track driver. "Drive over it." The driver hesitated only briefly. Then the half-track rolled forward through the mud. The German helmet disappeared beneath the front track with a sharp metallic crack. One side collapsed instantly into the gravel road. The rear track crushed the remaining steel flat. Nobody in the patrol spoke afterward. 43 men watched the destroyed helmet beside the road. Rainwater slowly filled the crushed steel shell where it lay in the mud. Patton looked once towards the patrol line. An American soldier should never survive by disappearing into the enemy. No one answered. By that evening, 14 replacement helmets had been distributed across 3 patrol units near the Rhine crossings. 2 standing reports about captured enemy gear were withdrawn before midnight. No soldier in the regiment wore visible German equipment again during the final advance east. Patton stepped back into the jeep without another word. The engine never stopped running. The crushed helmet remained beside the forest road for 2 more days. Passing convoys slowed when drivers recognized what it was. Several officers stopped long enough to look at it without speaking. Replacement equipment reached the regiment completely within 72 hours. 37 damaged helmets were exchanged across 4 companies before the next major advance eastward. No further disputes over enemy gear reached division headquarters that month. Weeks later, battalion commanders began adding visible equipment inspections before patrol movement near occupied German towns. The order never appeared in formal field manuals. Nobody needed it written down after Andernach. Years later, Robert Miller said, "He didn't punish the man. He replaced the problem first." Patton never mentioned the incident publicly. He never talked about it. The argument never fully disappeared. One side believed survival justified any protection available under fire. The other believed armies survived because soldiers recognized each other instantly under pressure. Both sides carried logic. Both sides carried risk. Would you have ignored the regulation and kept the German helmet, or done what Patton did? Let us know in the comments. If you want more stories about battlefield discipline, impossible frontline decisions, and the moments that defined Patton's command style, subscribe.